There are places in this world where silence itself is a language. An ancient language not to be heard with the ears, but to be felt along the spine. And when you hear it, you will understand that some waters were never meant to be crossed. They called it the Silent Sea, a simple name for a living hell, a place where ships entered and never returned, where reality was torn apart and memory became your most terrifying enemy. Here, all electronic signals are swallowed. No satellites, no radio, no radar, only a deadly stillness. Veteran sailors, those who had skirted its edge, whispered of a place where the ocean doesn't just go quiet but listens. Off the coast of southwestern Australia lies a vast oceanic region that scientists could only call the Obsidian Abyss. Throughout history, there have been countless tales of ships lost in these waters. She wasn't seeking an easy truth. She was seeking the essence of this silence. Alongside her was Captain David Miller, a seasoned naval officer. Having endured countless voyages, he had faced every storm, every foe. But the mystery of the Obsidian Abyss was something else entirely. He accepted this mission with his own deep personal motives. He wanted to disappear, not from duty, but from the noise of the outside world. Official reports always concluded accidents, storms, or technical failures. But the whispers, the secret letters, the fragments of journals that remained told a different story. And then, in 1979, a Soviet satellite passing over the South Atlantic anomaly also recorded a similar interference event. A perfect dead zone. 63 seconds of total radio blackout. A story of loss, not just of life, but of self. Dr. Anya Sharma, a brilliant marine physicist, shunned by the mainstream scientific community for her fierce belief in anomalous phenomena. Anya believed that the Obsidian Abyss was not merely a magnetic anomaly, but a space-time structural anomaly. A place where the laws of physics were bent, where reality itself fractured. And she believed that what happened to the German ship Valkyrie II in 1938 was also a part of this mystery. The true purpose of the Valkyrie II, hidden in state-funded naval papers, is far more esoteric than a meteorological expedition. The research vessel Persephone set sail on a bright, sunny day with a gentle breeze. The first week passed uneventfully. 23 souls, clear skies, radios chirping hourly back to Perth. Everything seemed to be under control. Silence at first was merely the absence of sound. But then, it became a repulsion of sound. But on the 9th day, the change began. The radio suddenly died. Footsteps produced nothing. Voices felt swallowed. Even the ocean around the ship had gone quiet, as if the sea held its breath. Not broken, not jammed, just ... gone. Every channel turned to white nothing. The ship's internal signals still worked, but no external contact could be made. A dropped wrench no longer rang on the metal deck. Footsteps felt absorbed into the wood. Breathing became unnatural. The first incident occurred with Hans Vogel, a young sonar technician. He reported hearing 3 slow knocks from beneath his cabin floor, then silence. By morning, Hans was gone. His boots were found outside the mess hall, neatly placed, dry. I don't know what it is, but it's listening to us. No signs of struggle, no splash, only the stillness. But silence, as they soon learned, had a language of its own. Captain David Miller, a seasoned and skeptical naval officer, assembled the crew. Captain Miller's voice. Something is wrong with the ocean. Narrator's VOICE, he ordered radio silence. All sound systems turned off. No sonar, no Morse. After Hans' disappearance, the strange phenomena escalated. They were no longer just an absence of sound, but an assault on their very perception. Time began to become elastic. The clock still turned, but the crew didn't perceive time passing normally. Sometimes it was night and noon at once. The compass spun wildly, no longer pointing anywhere. It was no longer an absence of sound, but a repulsion of sound. The engine still functioned, but it would not move the vessel. The silence had changed. A pool of water with no source, no sign of a leak. It defied all physical logic. No leak, no hole. Just water where it should not be. Was something wrong, not imagined? Captain Miller noted a tension. Not a physical pressure, but a tension building just beyond the hole, in the water or beneath it. Why did compasses stutter? Why did birds change flight paths mid-air, only to dive into the sea as if seeking silence? Then a low crackle filled the room, followed by a voice, not German, not human. It spoke in bursts, not words. When officers opened the crawl space beneath his quarters, they found seawater pooled in a perfectly circular shape. All fins swam beside them for days, then vanished all at once. Captain Miller himself admitted he lost 20 hours staring at the ship's brass compass, even though it pointed nowhere. The ship's cat refused to go near the starboard railing. Technicians began reporting phantom tones through their headphones. Soft clicks, inverted rhythms, pulses that didn't register on any waveband. But everyone on the bridge that night claimed they understood it in their own way. In the following days, the crew began reporting strange dreams. They were not merely vague images, but journeys into a surreal world. Another drew a spiral symbol fractured by static lines and then mysteriously vanished, leaving no explanation. They were of corridors with no doors, of endless metal staircases, and of a sea that extended inward, not outward. A sea inside the self. The sky, always vast and comforting to seamen, seems just a little heavier above the waves. These memories were not their own. One man woke screaming in Russian, though he'd never learned the language. Dr. Sharma's voice. The stars are here, but they feel farther away. Narrator's voice. Another tried to jump overboard again. Captain Miller wrote. It doesn't want us to speak. It wants us to remember. Her handwriting became looser, curved, more contemplative, more complete. Sound began to decay. A dropped wrench no longer rang on the metal deck. Footsteps felt absorbed into the wood. Conversations hung in the air like thoughts never quite spoken. Not with waves, not in the way water should, but with a rise and fall that was far too regular. But one that rose from the sea itself, coiling over the hull like smoke from unseen fire. But it was not made of notes. It was made of memory. Like the chest of a sleeping creature, as though the ship floated not on water, but on the slow tidal respiration of something vast beneath. She wrote, We are headed into a hush, too perfect to be accidental. On the evening of the third day, someone restarted the radio. They didn't know who. The dial turned itself slowly. One man wept. The next morning the voice was gone. But something had changed. The ocean flat for days began to breathe. The silence grew deeper. On the 15th night, the fog arrived, not the kind that drifts in from the horizon. Into the fog, they found the boy. A child no older than 12, standing barefoot on the aft deck. No one had seen him come aboard, no boats nearby, no missing persons from any recent port. He said nothing. They called him Echo, because he seemed to embody this strange stillness. He called it the undoing of noise. Dr. Sharma tried speaking to him, but the boy only blinked once and placed a finger to his lips. Memories had been inverted, drowned upward into a place where meaning unraveled, where the surface was below and silence was a current that pulled at the soul. Then Echo finally moved. The boy sat cross-legged at the bow and began to hum. Ink-like characters curled within the circuits, bleeding onto his hands. Sound no longer behaved. Words formed backwards. The human voice, when spoken aloud, became blurred, as though censored by the air itself. Their thoughts no longer anchored to bone. They saw their reflection blinking before they did. The sea was remembering what it was before language. And they were the echo that did not belong. His hum deepened, not louder, but denser, a frequency you could feel in your lungs. It was changing the ship. The wood no longer creaked, but sang softly in harmony with him. Captain Miller withdrew into his journal. His writings became meditations, more poetry than log. He no longer feared what was happening. Echo's hum spoke not in words, but in corrections. It altered memory. Small things at first. The name of a mother, the color of the captain's coat, the taste of bread. Then larger things, who had died, who was still aboard, what their mission had been. One stared into a broken mirror and murmured to his reflection in an unknown tongue. His voice was wrong, both young and old, distant and intimate. And then the whispering returned. You could still see them, but they weren't entirely there, like ghosts of themselves. By now, only 6 men remained aboard. 3 refused to speak. Another took apart the ship's radio piece by piece, only to find letters instead of wires black. No longer from the mist, but from inside the metal. from beneath the nails in the wood, from the reflection in the water. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. A derelict ship was found adrift later. No crew, no bodies, only air too quiet. They were no longer afloat on an ocean in the South Atlantic. They were in the obsidian abyss. Instruments failed. Compass neutral. Radio silent. Children's shoes found on deck, dry. His lips moved, his throat strained, but nothing emerged. Nothing at all. The others watched, unmoving, as if he were underwater. Otto, one of the crew, tried to keep track, writing names, dates, events in charcoal on the ship's walls. But each morning, the words rearranged themselves. Dr. Sharma described a night in which she watched the sky flicker, not with lightning, but with memory. On that same night, Echo finally moved. "Oh, you must learn the weight of silence," the boy said. He stood up, walked to the center of the deck, and pointed downward. Not break apart, not splinter, but unthread. The whole lost mass. Railings faded at the edges. Dr. Sharma tried to stop them. She begged, she prayed. But the sea did not answer. Only echo. Finally, Dr. Sharma stood beneath the tattered flag of the Persephone and spoke with her mouth. "They have spoken too long. Parts of the ship no longer cast shadows. There was nothing below but black water." But every man understood. The sea was not beneath them, it was above. The next day, the Persephone began to fracture. 2 men walked overboard, stepping down as if onto invisible stairs, descending into nothingness with calm smiles. She fell to her knees. Her journal recorded the final entry. "We are becoming less." The edges of us blur. Below that, a broken spiral symbol and the scrawled words. There is no silence, only listening. So what was the obsidian abyss? A magnetic anomaly? A myth born from wartime paranoia? Or a point of rupture in the fabric of reality? A wound where memory pools and meaning collapse? Only ships found with no names, no voices, and the faint impression on wood or steel of a child's bare feet. There is no answer, only recordings that cut out, only compasses that lose their will. They say the ocean is vast. But perhaps not all of it belongs to us. Perhaps some waters were never meant to be crossed, not because of distance, but because they do not wish to be known. They only wish to listen, and when they have heard too much, they remember. So if you ever sail near the obsidian abyss and your radio fails, your watch stops and the water grows still, narrator's voice don't speak. Don't listen, and whatever you do, don't answer the hum.